This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. It's been another weird week over at Twitter. That seems like just about any week we would be able to say those words. The chaos of quick decisions and then, oh, maybe I didn't mean that, is really starting to confuse people. This week, the company announced a ban on external social media links, which most people believed was likely because people were saying, hey, so I'm heading off the platform, join me over on Mastodon, or join me over on Hive, or, whatever, and putting links. And so Elon Musk said, no. And people went, yes. And the company went, okay. So that was reversed in less than 24 hours. It was very strange, but that's something that we've been seeing a lot lately. There was some user accounts that were suspended and then unsuspended in a similar quick-fire manner. It's definitely been... the promise was that it was going to be less of the Wild West, and I feel like we've gone more Wild West with policies and enforcement. I don't know. But all of this led to an interesting poll the other night, led by our twit-in-chief, asking if he should step down from the CEO role. Now, here's the thing. He's already said it was his plan, that he was going to... He never intended to stay as the day-to-day operations person forever. So he puts out a poll, should I step down? The answer was a very loud yes, which even on our shows, we have essentially said, probably a good idea. Because if you don't know from hour to hour how the platform is going to work, it's very hard to trust it with anything, right?
I mean, it's been chaos. It's been absolute chaos. But listen, he creates the chaos on purpose. I mean, he doesn't really seem to have a governing philosophy except for do what I feel like right now and have chaos. Like before he bought it, it was oh yeah, we want to have free speech. We don't want to ban people who've been banned. But then he unbans a bunch of people that he likes, and then bans a bunch of people who he doesn't like. Then he decides that
people change their display names to his name and suspends them.
Right. I mean, the dude has a very thin skin. Like, this is not a professional. It really makes me wonder how this person has managed to allegedly run a bunch of successful businesses. Seems like maybe he was a figurehead and other people were making the decisions, and somehow he had the money from made the smart investments, or especially since his family was rich and gave him money, that he was able.
PayPal was a big success,
right? So he's kind of but he doesn't seem to have the temperament to be CEO of anything. Like I mean, he can get away with, or sort of get away with this on Twitter. Imagine if he ran SpaceX like this,
right?
Like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't like what you said, so I'm not gonna fire this rocket like.
Right.
I mean, the it's just completely. I mean, the way that he even approaches things is just publicly has been just extremely juvenile and
Yeah.
unprofessional. Like this is a masterclass in how to purposefully destroy a business, or how not to run a business. I mean, if he had an objective, it's not other than damaging the brand. I'm not sure what it was, because if it was like making it more of a pantheon of freedom of speech, he didn't do that.
Nope.
If it was trying to make it more of a success as a business, like selling more ads or selling premium services, didn't do that. If it was bringing some type of consistency of leadership or something to it, didn't do that, because he keeps reversing the things that he says he's going to do,
Yep.
right? uh, I mean, if it was trying to make it more, I don't know, professional, although I don't know if anyone accused Twitter of being unprofessional before, but like, let's see, insulting your current and recently former employees, extremely unprofessional. Even if you
Sure.
think those things, you don't say them publicly, you know,
Keep it in here, bud.
right?
Keep it in here.
Right. Like you, even if you think something like you running the, business, right? Like it's just 100% id. The guy
Yeah.
just spent $44 billion to like have a giant like tantrum
Mm-hmm.
for a month and a half. And you know I suppose he could bring in somebody else who was trying to kind of meet some objectives, but the question is, what are those objectives? He still owns the platform, so they're his objectives. So even if someone else is named the CEO, is this someone else going to be behaving in this
Right.
like irrational way, because he still has to report to to Musk?
Right.
And there's like no moderating factor here, like a board of directors
Mm-hmm.
or the marketplace, to say like, hey, wait a second, like this is just not a logical way to run any business.
Right. May and maybe that's what happens, right? Or maybe the idea of somebody else being the day to day operations is your 3 day waiting period, right? That's your cool down period between something happening and you making a stupid decision, and you don't have your hands on the controls anymore. You're not in the building. You're not going, all right, you guys switch offices or whatever weird things are happening in there. He's selling toaster ovens. Doesn't matter. Uh, um, eh, maybe having somebody else. And I do believe that in his head there was a thing. I don't know what that thing was, but there was a thing. And he wasn't expecting all the other things to be as distracting as they've been, because he's got a shiny new crazy town toy and he's playing with it. That's what I see. I see a kid with a new toy playing with it. And
Yes, but he's kind of
the kid doesn't care about the thing, because we know that kids play with toys for a period of time and then they move on. And I
he's sort
really
of
feel like
like,
he's a kid playing with a toy.
yes, but he's like that kid. What was the name of that kid in Toy Story? The one who like melts all his toys?
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
The neighbor. I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember the name of it, but
Uh,
yeah, he's like that kid.
mm-hmm.
Stu, what was his name? I forgot. Just like just destroys all of his, just like really violent and destroys all his toys.
Sid.
Yeah, that's Sid. Sid.
Right.
Yeah, he's like Sid.
I got
Uh,
almost all the way
so
through typing in my search and it hit me.
yes, yes. So anyway, yeah, this
Sid
is
Phillips, in fact, I think. Doesn't matter. Continue.
so like, why? What a complete waste of, $44 billion he wasted for this. I mean,
Yeah, and
is he?
and he leveraged his Tesla stock to pull it off. So
Also,
so
he's
this is
damaged
putting
his brand.
true because I don't know if you saw this, but somebody was talking to Tesla dealerships and salespeople, and they were saying the number of cancellations on pre-orders that have happened since Musk bought Twitter is more than all of the pre-order cancellations since they started working with the company.
Yeah, he's damaged the brand. I mean, he's turned it into a very uh, first of all, he's turned it into a very like cause oriented like whole. I mean, he's like he's turned it into like for one thing, no matter what he actually believes or
Mm-hmm.
believed, like he really put himself out there in terms of having some very polarizing statements, uh, right? And and by doing that, like people who were cool with being like associated with the Tesla brand are now like, wait a second, like now Tesla, like especially because he's very closely associated with the brands that he owns.
Yeah,
Like he's very closely associated
figurehead, like you
with
said.
Tesla. Yeah. It's not like I couldn't tell you who the head of like Ford is right now,
Yeah, I don't know
or
the
the
current head.
CEO of GM. Like so, I wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, what does the CEO of GM think? Are they saying something really offensive? Oh, I won't buy that Chevy or whatever. Like you know,
There's a lot better
it,
reasons not to buy a Chevy than that.
but like people don't. But he's so closely associated with that brand.
Yeah,
He's made it about him, and now that he's kind of tarnished his reputation, not just his reputation as like, oh, I don't agree with something he said or whatever. He seems like unstable and not very smart, and so like people who kind of bought into this genius myth of him as being like a Tony Stark type of guy,
yeah,
which he actually appeared in Iron Man 2 for that purpose, right?
yeah.
Uh, Now are probably thinking like, wow, this guy really put one over on us because, once we got to get a closer look at him, he really doesn't seem that bright at all.
I feel a little bit like maybe he's the Tony Stark hidden away in the underground lab just doing whatever weird things he wants with no regard for Pepper Potts or anybody around him or the end result of what he's created, Ultron, right? Like I feel like Elon might be that Tony Stark. Not
Yeah,
showering
maybe,
for
but
weeks at a time and not telling
maybe, but
anybody that he's poisoning himself through the thing.
I'm just not convinced that he knows as much. Like, having read some stuff
Right.
about him recently, like apparently he didn't, you know, it's a lot of the things that he didn't actually get. He doesn't actually have as many degrees or whatever as people think or thought.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stuff that happens at these companies was just sort of him investing in them, not actually like coming up with ideas.
Yeah.
My favorite story, did we talk about this in a previous episode, the story about like the people at SpaceX who had set up like all kinds of fake displays for him when he comes into the office? Uh,
No.
so there was a wonderful, I think this was a Twitter thread, which I'm sure if he saw now, he would probably purge. Someone who said they had
Or
worked
suspend the
like as an
account.
yes, worked as an intern at SpaceX at one time, and everybody at SpaceX was like, "Hey, um, we know who this guy is. We know that we've got to like put on a show for him when he comes into the office. He wants to see people working what he thinks working hard looks like."
Yeah.
So, um, so what they would do is there was like one guy there who was a programmer, and he had like a whole bunch of screens, kind of like me, And on one screen, he set up an animation that looked kind of like the Matrix thing, where like in the Matrix, where they have all that text scrolling by or whatever. And he set it up; it was just a fake animation, but like it impressed Elon Musk because he was walking by and he saw that. Or another time, like all he wanted to see people working late, so all of the like engineers or whoever stayed late at their desks and played like some MMO game together.
Sure.
But he saw them all sitting there, so he thought they were working or whatever.
Great solution
And
to a stupid problem.
apparently, at all of the like levels of the company, people understood this. It was like, hey, the boss is coming. We've got to put on a show. And
Okay.
I
Clever.
have worked with people. I have worked with people like that before,
As have
and I
I.
get it.
I mean,
Like,
not to that
and
level, but yes.
I get it. Like, I worked at a place once where there were people who were supposed to be doing reviews of video games, but the CEO or whatever would come around and was angry if he saw them playing video games at their desk because, oh, people can't see you playing a game. Like, it was literally their job to play games,
Yeah.
but they had to like be ashamed of their job, and so like they'd have to go hide in a closet basically to test video games during the workday. Like, so because they were like, well, what if other people see you playing video games? That seems like you're not working. So like again, like I mean that's a lot of what goes on too with it. Like, oh, we want to see people in the office not working remotely because then we know they're working. Like these are very like
Yeah.
very like out of touch kind of ways of managing, and he's there. He is doing them. So
I I love the idea of the Matrix screen.
yeah,
That amuses me
yeah,
to no end. I appreciate that story. Oh my goodness.
yeah. That was I read that and I was like, yeah, I totally understand why they would do that,
Yeah.
and yet it's hilarious to
Believable.
think about. Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Well, we don't know what the future holds. In fact, everything could have changed while we've been on the air tonight. Who knows? Um, he may have landed a rocket at HQ. There's no telling. But as it continues to get weird or calm depending on what happens with the results of this Twitter poll, we will unfortunately keep you posted. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course, hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.